Welcome back, everybody. So today, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of where we're at with the red cherry shrimp tank rebuild. We're about 3 weeks, I think. About 3 weeks since that particular rebuild. And I know a lot of you would like to see where we're at, so I thought I'd share that with you today. It's not a whole lot to report, but we'll give it a quick once over. I'll just zoom out here so you can see the bulk of the tank. A couple of things I do want to point out, guys, and I am sorry, you guys know I'm not using professional equipment here, so when I zoom out, I get that little bit of light reflection, and it kind of makes the whole tank look a little cloudy. If you look at the shot here, I'll zoom back in again. If we get away from that light reflection, I just want you to note, regardless of the dust and the dirt and everything else I left in the tank, because I don't rinse them because it's just too big a pain in the butt, I want you to understand this tank is practically glass clear. Now I know when I zoom out, it doesn't really look like it because we're getting that glare off the water, but I wanted to zoom in just so you could see that. This tank went almost glass clear probably within the first week after I put the sponge filter in there. Now granted, I don't have a coarse sponge. It is a very fine sponge, so that does help quite a bit. So some things we should talk about. I think it was probably a week or so, about a week, after I put the tank together and I shot that video. Within the week or so, I put the Corys in. A couple of days later, we put the autos and the snails in. During that week, ghost feeding, not a lot, just a tiny little bit to spark that growth on your surfaces, your biofilm, your algae, and everything else that your fish and your shrimp and your autos are gonna depend on. This tank I put together, or rather, I shouldn't say I put together very fast, but I put the shrimp and the fish and everything in it very, very quickly after it's set up. As I've said before, guys, I'm taking off on vacation for a bit, so I want to get this stuff done before I have a family member come in to take care of it. I want it to be simple. I don't want them to have to worry about a bunch of stuff that's halfway through a project. So the fish went in here probably within the first week. I think the shrimp went in here probably within the first 2, maybe even week and a half, if I'm being really honest. I realize it's very, very fast, guys, but understand, all of the plants, all of the wood, and a chunk of the rocks were already in a previous setup. So they already had biofilm built up on them. I took an old catappa leaf and ripped it up and threw it in here. Actually, if you're wondering where they are, guys, they're all in the cave. If you remember, this is a cave I built for plecos to breed in the future. It's probably going to be a couple of months before I get there. I'm certainly not going to introduce them to a tank before I'm going away. But that's where I jammed all the catappa leaves. As a result, I don't think that the fish are aware that there's a cave in there. I know the shrimp are, but I've never seen any of the fish go in there yet. So yeah, guys, this tank came together really, really quick. Fish went in, shrimp went in, everything was in here within, I think, by the end of the second week, maybe a week or 2 weeks and a couple days. Never showed any trace of anything. No ammonia, nitrogen, nitrates. Now, that can be a little scary, and what it probably means is that this tank itself never actually went through a nitrogen cycle. That's admittedly possibly slightly risky, but I'm also okay with that. I have a filter on here that had been filtering the previous tank. The filter itself, if you want to call the filter, is cycled. That sounds ridiculous, but that filter has a lot of the biological material in it that filters out the ammonia, nitrates, as does all of the plants. And this tank is, I mean, it's pretty heavily planted. There's a lot of plants in here to grow and absorb those nutrients. There's floaters in here as well, although much less than I usually keep. I had a lighting issue that I discovered after a couple of previous recordings and realized that I'd actually set my lights down far too low and was really inhibiting the growth of the tank. So all of my lights now have been bumped up to about 50% on these lights, about 12 hours a day and maybe an hour blue light. I know it sounds like a lot, guys. I don't really have any algae growth in here. I don't have any algae growth in any of the tanks right now. They're all really good. I do have a string algae thing going on. Me and Java Moss, we got an issue with string algae. I feel like this is normal. This, I just want to show you this little piece of Java Moss over here in the corner. It's the only piece of Java Moss I could salvage that I was 100% certain did not have string algae on it. It's not a bad problem. I mean, I have some string algae in a couple of the aquariums. It's not really bad. I think I've stunted the growth now that I've got the plants growing, but doggone it, I hate string algae. Something else I just want to point out while I'm zoomed in on this spot. This rock pile is probably one of the most interesting things I've done for a shrimp tank. You know, it's pretty funny when you're looking at this tank overall, sometimes it really doesn't look like there's a lot of shrimp in here. And admittedly, when I transferred naturally, because, you know, I got to pull the shrimp out and move them around anyways, figured I might as well cull them down. So, I think I put about 50 or so shrimp in here that I feel are probably some of the best colors I've got. Now, you know, this is a young colony, but the reds are good and red. I've got a couple in here that are a little pale, but they're a little younger too. So we'll see how they color up. Kept my best ones, put the rest of the culls in my Skittles tank with the swords. They're all getting along well. That's an update I'm looking forward to doing, guys. That tank is doing so well. Anyhow, so this rock pile, I think this is going to really help with the success of breeding. I don't know whose video I saw this in. I know I heard it on a YouTube video, probably one of Mark or Richard's videos that they let out. They're two of the ones that do a lot of videos on shrimp. It was probably one of them suggested something about a rock pile. It's really quite funny though. You watch them go in and out of the little caves that this natural rock pile makes. I feed some powdered food from time to time, make it myself. I just use just get an old coffee grinder, guys. You don't need to buy Bacter AE. I mean, I probably shouldn't call out products on a YouTube video, but you really don't need to buy specific powdered food. Go get your flake food, get your algae pellets. I grab freeze-dried bloodworm or dried bloodworm. I grab a bunch of that, put it all in a coffee grinder, and grind it up small. It'll come out like a powder, and that's what I use to keep the babies going. So that stuff, the filter kind of directs it at these rocks and it blows it around the rocks, which is great because it gets in all the crevices and underneath and everything for the babies. I guess shrimp have a natural tendency to drop their babies in an area they feel that's protected, like a rock pile. So I see the shrimp crawling in and out of there all the time, especially at feeding. Now, I'm not going to feed them right now, guys. Today is the tank's day off. I have several days a week where I don't feed my tanks. It's just not necessary to feed them every day. I know that's probably not great for shrimp breeding, but again, guys, I'm in this more for the enjoyment of the hobby than I am for the profit. If I get a few extra shrimp here and there to sell for a couple of bucks, great, but I'm really not in it just for massive breeding. If I was, I wouldn't have a heavily planted tank. I'd have a bare bottom glass tank, and I really wouldn't have anything to show you guys either. So the tank has been really successful, guys. I've really not had any issues with it. I think, well, I'm sorry, ADHD brain. I got sidetracked. I had started to say that the tank hadn't really cycled through yet. And that's probably true. I never really saw any ammonia, nitrogen, or nitrates in the water. And if I were working with a less planted tank, that would concern me before putting fish in here. Because you really rely on that biological material in your filter and in your tank to filter out the ammonia. With this many plants and this much growth this quickly, I'm not concerned about whether or not this tank has cycled at all. Now, I may be wrong. This may come back to haunt me in the future, and I may seriously regret those words, but none of my tanks ever really went through what I would call a traditional nitrogen cycle, but they're all very heavily planted, and that's really my filter. The sponge filter that's in there is kind of a backup. and it aerates the water. I don't really count on the sponge filter to do my filtering. So let's talk about the rest of this, guys. Everything went in here within 2 weeks, returned pretty much to normal behavior almost immediately. I saw the Corys, I think even like the day after I put them in here, back to their typical breeding behavior. I did see an egg spawn in here. It didn't last very long. But I did see an egg spawn in here. So that tells me we're doing okay there. The fish are healthy. The shrimp, probably just simply because of the massive water change, quote unquote. I mean, being introduced to a new tank is like a giant water change. It did cause some molts. Looks to me, I didn't see any dead shrimp. I think everybody got out of their molts okay. I have seen a couple of buried shrimp in here, which I kind of expect after a massive water change. Although they're the ones that are buried that I've seen in here, there's only a couple so far. And the ones that I've seen appear to be what I would consider juveniles or adolescents, right? This is probably their first clutch of eggs. I don't expect that to be successful. I find in my tanks, usually the adolescents or juveniles, their first clutch of eggs, I don't typically see a lot of success from that. I don't think that's specific to my tank. I think that's sort of generic. It seems like that's just nature's thing. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, guys, if I'm doing something wrong here that is causing that first clutch of eggs to just not be successful. Maybe there's something I need to know and you guys can share it with me. But overall, really successful. A couple of things I'm going to show you. I'm going to just zoom in here. Now, if you guys remember from building the tank, these are S Repens here. down beside the rocks. It's hard to show you some of them because they're a little bit covered. Now, these were basically nubs when I planted them. And you can see all the growth on them now. Now granted, if you really look close, you can see there's probably a little nutrient deficiency going on here because the veins are nice and green and the leaves are a little yellow. That's probably because their roots haven't quite reached that soil layer yet. I'm not going to fertilize this tank again. I don't typically fertilize past the first week. I'm not going to do root tabs or anything. We're going to wait a little bit and we're going to see if they darken up when the roots get down there. I think we're going to be fine. Also, wanted to show you a couple things over here. If we look, we're already producing runners. We're already, the Liliopsis is already taken hold and producing runners. And in here, and I don't know if I can, something, I don't know what that is. I didn't plant it. And it's not Liliopsis. So something is growing under the rocks. The Anubis that you saw from the pest snails video, look at how clean that is. Look at that plant now. I thought that thing was, I was gonna toss it out, to be honest, or cut off the worst of the leaves and maybe try to resurrect it. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? That was just from a few days in that other tank, guys, and they cleaned it right up. Also, if you look in the back, look at this. You can see how damaged that plant was, how bad the leaves are, and look at the ones on top. Look over here too. This one over here, where are we? There we are. This one over here too. Look how damaged that plant is, and then look at the top growth. That's crazy. That's just crazy, guys. So sometimes you can see just getting things together in the right environment makes such a big difference to plant growth overall. So anyways, guys, tank has been super successful. Not much more I can tell you on that front. Shrimp behavior, fish behavior seems about spot on where I would expect it to be. Like I said, not much of a cycle or nitrogen cycle to speak of, but that's atypical of most of my tanks anyhow. I thought you'd just like to see where we're at, guys. Lots of plant growth. Everything seems happy, healthy. No real issues to report. A little bit of breeding going on, but I think what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to come back to this tank a month or so from now, and we'll see where we're at. Maybe we'll have some breeding to report on. Maybe we'll be able to talk about some successes with that. Not sure. We'll have to see where things go, guys. But thought you'd enjoy that. Just wanted to talk about the tank for a little bit, show you the outcome. For those of you who watched the tank get set up, put together, if you had any questions or concerns about its viability as a tank once we got it filled up and put fish in it. I know some people probably watched that video with all the dust and everything and the dirt and went, wow, that tank's gonna fail. Surprisingly, guys, I haven't had one really go sideways on me yet with this particular method. Although I'm sure you've seen me redo the other tanks that I did a little differently, so that taught me a lesson for sure. But everything's good, guys. Lots of plant growth. Everything's looking okay. We're gonna stay on top of this. Hopefully when I get back from vacation, maybe we'll find some babies in here. But from here, guys, I think I'm gonna shut up and I'll just record a little bit of what's going on in the tank for you before we close out the video. Thanks for tuning in, guys. You know, the last couple of videos have done pretty good. This has been a lot of fun. You guys take care. I hope you have lots of success. Talk to you the next time, guys.